Tom? Are you okay?
Huh? What? Grandma.
In the basement of the house bought for my eldest son and his wife. There, chained up, was my grandson Tom, who seemed to have been sleeping. He opened his eyes, saw me, and yawned curiously.
What happened? Why are you down here?
I rushed over to Tom and embraced his shoulders, relieved to see he wasn't hurt. Tom answered with a vague look on his face.
It's just the usual, you know? What's the rush?
What? The usual?
Hearing those words, anger surged within me. It appears that my son's wife, Whitney, locks Tom in the basement like this whenever she's not around to prevent him from visiting me. That's far too cruel. I took Tom home with me and contacted a realtor we've known for years that same day. The next day, I visited my eldest son's home with the realtor. My name is Vivian. I'm a 58-year-old housewife. My husband, Andrew, of the same age, runs a company. It's a small business, but one he built from scratch after a career change. He started the company when our son, Bert, was less than a year old. We had no money and were poor. So, Bert is our only child. I worked tirelessly, helping with the company's clerical work while managing the household. Thanks to our efforts, the company is now stable, and Bert has grown up to be a good man. And now, he is about to take over Andrew's company, having graduated from college and working under Andrew. Of course, both Andrew and Bert have worked hard. However,
it's because Vivian was there for us.
Mom, it's all thanks to your hard work, they both say. When Andrew hands over the business to Bert, we might finally have some time for ourselves. That's what I'm looking forward to in our retirement. If there's one thing that troubles me, it's probably my eldest son's wife, Whitney. Whitney is a year younger than Bert. They met through a friend's introduction. They got pregnant after a year of dating, and the marriage was decided. So, by the time we first met her, Bert had already decided to marry her, and we felt the same way. We're going to be family. We wanted to build a good relationship. That was our intention when we met. Nice to meet you. However, contrary to our hopes, Whitney spoke without any warmth or friendliness and then fell silent.
Your name was Whitney, right?
I smiled and tried to engage Whitney. Yes, that's right. But if you already know, there's no need for introductions, right? Andrew and I exchanged looks at her response. Indeed, we knew her name because Bert told us, but that's no reason to skip introductions.
Come on, be a little more proper. We're going to be family after all.
Even when Bert reprimands her, Whitney doesn't change her initial attitude. I'm going to be family with you. I have no intention of being family with your parents. Despite us hearing, Whitney coldly retorts. She's strong-willed and stubborn. Not a bit of honesty in her. Bert gives a bitter smile and says, "She's just nervous." But I know that's not the case. Still, we couldn't start off on the wrong foot.
So, that's how it is.
I forced a smile as well. Surely, the day will come when she opens her heart to us. I wanted to believe that. But she never changed. Even when I wanted to greet her parents, she said, "There's no need," preventing us from meeting them. We even built a house on a piece of land we had as a wedding gift. But not a single word of thanks came from her. Moreover, despite looking forward to it, she didn't want to have a wedding ceremony. If Whitney, as a wife, dislikes it, we can't force her. But Bert is our only child. We also wanted to attend our son's wedding. Understanding how we felt, Bert only took wedding photos for us. We were grateful for his thoughtfulness and came to terms with it. As time passed, Whitney remained unchanged. Far from opening her heart, she started to outright dislike us. Not long after their marriage, a boy was born to my eldest son's family. His name is Tom. A lively boy. I heard from Bert about the birth of our grandson and his name. Though we didn't expect much since we didn't get thanked for the house, when we sent a present, as expected, Whitney didn't even bother to thank us. It's not that we wanted thanks, but we at least wanted to see his face.
Is Tom doing well? I want to see him soon.
Even when Andrew and I express our desire to Bert to see our grandson. Whitney dislikes it. He doesn't even send a photo. We don't think we've done anything to be disliked to this extent, even though she's refused to become family. We didn't contact them unless necessary, and there's no reason for us to be disliked in the first place. One day, fed up with her attitude, Andrew called Bert and said,
"If we did something to Whitney, I want you to tell us. We don't understand why she dislikes us so much."
I agree. Bert falls silent to Andrew's words. "Actually, we were shocked by Whitney's attitude the first time we met. Can you tell us why she acted that way?" Thinking he was being attacked by the two of us, Bert raised his head.
"What? Are you saying it's my or Whitney's fault?"
"We're not saying anyone's at fault. We just want to know," I say.
"That's right. We're not angry, we just want to get along with your family," adds Andrew.
Both Andrew and I tried to calm Bert. However, Bert starts yelling, unable to be convinced.
"That's why Whitney dislikes you. Want to get along? Don't lie. You're always harassing Whitney, pretending it's not your fault. Don't you think Whitney feels sorry?"
Hearing those words, my eyes went wide.
"Harassment? Yeah. Even so, I thought they're still my parents, but now I see your true nature. Wait, when have we ever harassed her?"
Andrew starts to panic. Naturally. We don't recall ever harassing her. We always wanted to get along, there's no way we would do such a thing. However, Bert doesn't answer any of our questions and storms out. After that, he ignores our calls. Not just Whitney, but Bert too, stopped reaching out to us. Andrew sees Bert at the company, but Bert starts to ignore Andrew. Despite it being about work, Andrew is troubled by Bert mixing personal issues with business. In the end, Andrew and I only met our grandson Tom when he was already 2 years old. Whitney was pregnant with their second child and had to be hospitalized due to a risk of premature birth. That's how we ended up taking care of Tom.
"Mama? Mama's not here."
Naturally, Tom seemed to panic and cried. Being suddenly left with us, grandparents he's never met, it's understandable he'd be confused. Andrew had to work. I was left to face Tom one-on-one. I had always wanted to meet my grandson, but there was no time to indulge in emotions. I was desperate to stabilize Tom's feelings. Though Andrew saw Bert at the company and seemed to update him about Tom, Bert continued to keep his distance from Andrew. And finally, when Tom began to settle down and started calling us Grandpa and Grandma, my eldest son's family welcomed their second child, a daughter. I was genuinely happy. Just like when Tom was born, Andrew and I sent a present. We hoped this time they would let us meet her, but our hopes were quickly dashed. On the day Whitney was discharged, our doorbell rang. Looking through the monitor, I saw Bert and Whitney. And in Whitney's arms, a white swaddle blanket cradled with care.
"Tom, your mom and dad are here."
I was so happy, I called out to Tom and rushed to open the door.
"Welcome. Congratulations on getting discharged."
Despite my smile, Whitney frowned and replied with a sigh, indicating annoyance.
"Come in."
I invited them inside, but Bert shook his head.
"No, it's okay. We're just here to pick up Tom.
Eh? If that's the case, you could have just said, I didn't prepare anything.
Leave Tom's stuff with Dad. I'll pick it up at the company.
Bert coldly told me this and then yelled into the house.
Tom. We're going home.
Hearing his voice, Tom peeked out from the hallway.
Mom!
Though they hadn't seen each other for a while, Tom's eyes lit up at the sight of Whitney. He ran to her and hugged her legs. He must have missed her. I watched this scene unfold, addressing Tom.
It's good Mom and Dad came for you. Tom, shall we put on your shoes?
But in that moment, Whitney pushed Tom away from her legs. Tom fell over in the process.
Be careful. I'm holding the baby, aren't I? You're a big brother now, you need to think.
At her shout, both Tom and I were taken aback, our eyes wide.
Such a way to speak. Tom is only 2 years old.
My voice leaked out unintentionally. But hearing me, Bert angrily yelled back.
Whitney is not wrong, is she? He's 2 years old, but he's a big brother now. He needs to learn what's dangerous.
That's true, but...
I couldn't say anything more. Bert pulled Tom up by the hand.
Thanks for everything. Tom, say bye-bye. Eh? Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Without understanding the situation, Tom waved at me, prompted by Bert. And then they left the house just like that. In the end, we never got to see the baby's face. But more than that, I couldn't get the image of Tom, looking back at me with a worried expression as Bert led him away, out of my head. Afterwards, I messaged Bert many times, asking, is Tom doing well? The reason I kept asking was because I never got a reply. When Andrew would ask Bert, he'd just say, he's fine, but nothing more. I was sure he was fine, but I couldn't help worrying. Though we had the chance to see each other at family weddings a few times over the years, we hardly ever got to spend time together. Still, I felt happy seeing my grandson growing up healthy from time to time. Then, when Tom became a first grader, to go to elementary school, he had to pass by our house. Out of Whitney and Bert's sight, Tom started stopping by our house. The first time he came was about a month after he started first grade.
Grandma, right? I'm Tom,
he said as I was cleaning the entrance.
Tom! Oh! You remembered our house? Yeah. I lived here for a while, remember?
Tom smiled innocently. He was not yet 3 years old at that time. And we hardly ever met. Yet he remembered staying with us, which moved me to tears.
Dad and Mom say I can't see Grandpa and Grandma.
Why's that?
That's...
Am I sick? I shook my head no. Then Tom happily asked, can I come to play sometimes? I nodded over and over again.
Of course. I'll tell Dad. Come over anytime.
Tom waved goodbye with a relieved smile and left. I was relieved to see him looking so different from that anxious face he had before. Later, I told Bert through Andrew what Tom had said.
We don't want to upset Whitney, so we'll pretend we heard nothing.
However, according to Andrew, Bert just said that and then stopped talking. I wanted to say something to Whitney, but it seemed she had blocked my calls, so there was no way to communicate. But Tom would occasionally come over to eat snacks and then leave after a short time, and there were no problems. I felt happy on the days I could see his face. But after his 7th birthday, he stopped coming to our house. At first, I thought maybe Whitney found out and scolded him, but even after a year, he didn't return. Even when I looked outside at dismissal time, there was no sign of Tom passing by, and I was incredibly worried. When I asked Bert, he'd just end with,
Tom? He's just normal.
If that was the case, that was fine, but I spent my days feeling restless. One day, when I passed by the station, I saw Whitney. She was entering a cafe with a girl and a friend. But it should be about time for school to let out. I wondered if Tom had a house key. I hurried home, looking among the schoolchildren for Tom.
Hello.
A schoolchild greeted me.
Hello. Oh, are you a friend of Tom's?
I recognized the child. I had seen Tom walking home with that child a few times when he was in first grade.
Yes, you're Tom's grandma, right? Yes, I am. Has Tom already gone home? I was waiting for him because I had something for him. If it's Tom, he's been off all week.
Tom's friend's words made my eyes go wide.
All week? Is it a cold, maybe? Maybe. He does take off quite a bit.
I see. Thank you. Goodbye. After seeing off Tom's friend, I immediately went back inside the house, grabbed my bag and keys and rushed out. He had been off all week. And sometimes, he takes off quite a bit. I started to worry terribly that maybe Tom is prone to getting sick. But what concerned me more was the current situation, where Whitney was out having tea with a friend despite that. Maybe she left Tom alone at home because he was unwell. With my heart in turmoil, I acted as if driven by an explosion. I went to my eldest son's house and rang the doorbell.
Tom? Are you there? Whitney, are you back?
But despite calling out, there was no answer. I used the spare key to enter the house. The house was quiet. It seems Whitney was still out.
Tom! Are you here?
I shouted from the entrance. But there was no response. As I was about to contact Bert, I heard a noise from inside the house. I stopped and listened. It was a small noise, but it came from the direction of the basement, which is used as a storeroom. When this house was being built, Bert had requested a space in the basement to store the figures he used to collect. I had said we didn't need such a thing, but Andrew agreed to Bert's request and had the basement made. Hearing the noise from the basement, I slowly descended the stairs. Then, opening the door of the storeroom, I found Tom chained up and collapsed on the floor. Shocked by the bizarre scene, I screamed out loud.
Tom? Are you okay?
Huh? What? Grandma. He seemed to have been sleeping. Tom opened his eyes, saw me, and yawned.
What happened? Why are you down here?
I rushed over to Tom and embraced his shoulders, relieved to see he wasn't hurt. Tom answered with a vague look on his face.
It's just the usual, you know? What's the rush?
What? The usual?
Yeah. When Mom's not around, I stay here. Because I went to Grandma's house on my own.
Hearing those words, anger welled up inside me.
What did you say?
Mom's been busy this week, so I've had to stay here. I've been studying here instead of going to school.
There were textbooks next to Tom. But that didn't matter. Holding back tears, I hugged Tom. I couldn't forgive what had happened to him just because he came to our house.
Where's the key for this chain? Do you know? It's on top of that shelf.
Tom pointed to the top of a shelf where Bert's figures were displayed. Indeed, there was a key there. I silently took it and unlocked the chain.
If you unlock it, Mom's going to.
It's okay. Grandpa and Grandma will protect you. Come on, let's go to our house.
But even after unlocking it, Tom hesitated to move. Seeing him like that, I couldn't bear the thought of how miserable and pitiful he must feel.
It's okay,
I said with as much of a smile as I could muster. And then, I brought Tom back to our house. Once we got home, Tom said,
I'm hungry. I haven't eaten anything today.
I quickly prepared a late lunch for him and fed him. Tom ate it happily and then sat on the sofa, looking satisfied.
Grandma, can I watch TV?
Of course, you can. Watch whatever you like.
Yay! And he started watching the TV intently. Apparently just in time for his favorite cartoons. In the meantime, I called Andrew and explained what had happened.
What? That's...
Andrew was speechless after hearing about Tom's situation from me.
He's here now, having a meal and watching TV. And, upon closer inspection, there seem to be bruises. I don't want to think it, but...
Understood. I'll come home early.
Please do. Even if he seems okay, he must be hurt both physically and emotionally.
After hanging up the phone, I sat down next to Tom. And just stayed there beside him without saying anything. Meanwhile, Whitney, having arrived home, noticed Tom was missing and contacted Bert. Bert, in a panic, reported it to Andrew. Since Andrew had already heard from me about Tom being in our care, he asked Bert calmly.
What do you mean? Explain. Did he disappear on his way back from school? Yeah.
Bert's response was hesitant. Probably knowing about Tom being chained in the basement.
Did Whitney go to the police?
Police?
We don't need to. He'll come back eventually.
Then there's no need to panic, right?
It's still early evening. Maybe he's at a friend's house.
Bert was ultimately unable to answer Andrew's questions. Naturally. Going to the police to report a son who was chained up would only worsen their situation. When Andrew got home, he sighed as he recounted Bert's reaction to me.
Anyway, he said he's leaving work early to search.
So, should we call Bert to talk?
Hearing our conversation, Tom stood up.
No! Don't call Dad. I don't want him to find out I'm here. Tom, if he finds out, I'll have to go back home, right? I'll be chained up again and get scolded for leaving on my own. I want to live here with Grandpa and Grandma. I don't want to go back to that house.
Andrew and I looked at each other. Even if it meant being accused of kidnapping, we silently vowed to protect this child to the best of our abilities. That night, we received a call from Bert. It was already 7 p.m. Surely, it was time to report a missing elementary school student. What should I do?
Tom is nowhere to be found.
Whitney is searching too. I don't know what to do. Bert was nearly in tears, calling us for help.
Can't Dad gather some people? We need to split up and search, or we won't find him.
Furthermore, audaciously, he said he wanted to use Andrew, the president's, connections. Despite having neglected us and ignoring Andrew's existence up until now, to rely on us just at this moment is just. I listened to Bert's story with half disbelief and then spoke up.
Surely, you've reported this, right? The police are looking for him, aren't they?
Well,
to think of using Dad's connections without even contacting the police, that's just too convenient. Look for him yourselves.
I couldn't help but feel a strong aversion to my eldest son and his wife at this moment and coldly turned them away. Whitney was also there, yelling.
Your grandchild is missing. Aren't you worried at all? There's something wrong with you as a human being.
And the sound of a child crying. It must be Tom's sister, who was with Whitney in the afternoon. It might be hard to search while carrying a small child. But it's their own doing. To not mention their own issues, but only seek help is absurdly self-serving. Which one of them is truly lacking as a person? They should experience some hardship. Though I had so much more I wanted to say, I swallowed those words and ignored Whitney's provocation, hanging up the phone. Given the loudness, Andrew and Tom next to me could hear Bert and Whitney's voices. If they realize I'm here, I'll probably get scolded again. And end up locked in the basement again, Tom said anxiously. I'm determined to ensure that never happens again. After that, Bert called several more times. He wasn't here, he wasn't there either. Next, I'll search over there, calls reporting his progress. He probably wanted us to join the search, but I pretended not to understand. Ultimately, these calls continued past 11 p.m. Searching on foot must have been tough. The thought alone made me laugh. After speaking with Andrew, I had contacted a realtor we had known for a long time earlier that day.
What do you plan to do? Dispose of that house. We didn't build a house for our grandson to be confined.
That makes sense. And the next day, I visited my eldest son's house with the realtor. The eldest son and his wife were out. Bert had taken the day off. They must be out searching for Tom again today. If they truly wanted to search, they should go to the police, but I imagine they have their reasons not to report it. As long as they prioritize their self-interest, they won't find him, and we have no intention of disclosing Tom's whereabouts.
Wasn't this house a wedding gift for your eldest son?
Yes, that's right. We built it as a wedding gift, but we don't need it anymore. We'll move the belongings out soon. For now, I'd like to proceed with just the sales contract, please.
Of course, we'll process it as requested. We'll change the locks today, so please contact us when you're ready to move the belongings.
I have a long-standing relationship with the agent. Even irregular requests like this are accommodated, which I appreciate. Always treated well, the impression today was as good as ever, and the promise to change the locks immediately was swift. After visiting the agency to complete all the formalities, I returned home. Though I felt a bit relieved, the most important issue, Tom, had not yet been resolved. As I pondered what to do next while preparing dinner, the doorbell rang. On the monitor were Bert and Whitney. Remembering the time they forcefully took Tom away, I spoke to him.
Dad and Mom have come. You mustn't go out.
Tom nodded, his expression showing a strong resolve not to return.
Yes. What do you mean, Mom?
Opening the door, Bert yelled at me with a red face. And Whitney glared at me.
What are you talking about? Don't play dumb. What do you mean by selling the house? We can't get in because the keys have changed.
The eldest son and his wife were panting with excitement, apparently having returned home to find the house sold. The realtor had changed the locks immediately and put up a notice from the agency. They called the number on it and found out the truth. I looked at the two of them in their frantic state and laughed through my nose.
Oh, that matter? I thought we didn't need such a house anymore. Fooling around! What right do you have to say such a thing? We're in a lot of trouble without Tom here?
Authority? Do they even understand who built that house and whose name it's in? And the reason Tom is missing is because of themselves. I can't muster any sympathy for them.
So, did you report it to the police? If you really want to find him, you should tell the police. The house is secondary to finding Tom, isn't it?
When I said that, Whitney also raised her voice.
We're going. So, just put everything back the way it was. And you won't even help look for him. You probably don't even care that much, do you? It's not your place to say anything about Tom, his mom, and dad.
They complained about various things, probably not intending to go to the police. Frustrated, I picked up my smartphone and dialed 911 right then and there.
Making a call while someone is talking.
Hello, is this the police? I reported the situation on the spot. Bert and Whitney, who were angry until a moment ago, suddenly turned pale and started to panic.
What are you doing? Bert! Take her smartphone!
Following Whitney's command, Bert snatched my smartphone from me. Even though I was still talking, Bert said,
"It was a mistake,"
and hung up the phone. But it became clear. They had no intention of going to the police.
Aren't you worried about Tom at all? You don't even want to report it.
That's...
Anyway, we came here to talk about the house. Just call the realtor and get the house back.
Bert said this and left with Whitney. No, they fled. It seemed they realized they would have to discuss what they had done to Tom if they stayed any longer. Watching them flee, I felt like throwing salt after them. Afterwards, I contacted a moving company to have all the belongings of my eldest son and his wife moved out. I arranged an apartment, moved the belongings there, and emptied the house. The goal was to demolish the house. I had made arrangements with the agent to have the house demolished when selling it. My eldest son and his wife were staying in a hotel. I took action immediately.
Thank you for your quick work. I appreciate it.
No. We're actually grateful you're turning it into vacant land so quickly. There's been a lot of interest in running parking lots in this area. This land will sell quickly.
Then that's good. I look forward to working with you in the future.
In front of the now vacant lot, I was talking with the agent. As promised, we were doing the final check in front of the land that had been cleared. That's when someone suddenly grabbed my shoulder from behind.
What? What do you mean? Why is the house gone?
It was Whitney, who happened to pass by. She must have come to check on the house, concerned. Whitney turned pale, looking back and forth between me and the now vacant land. The agent stepped in between us right away.
You're the wife of Vivian's son, right?
Yes. You're the realtor, right? Give back the house.
After Whitney answered with a trembling voice, she angrily grabbed the agent's arm.
The house and land here are in Vivian's name. It's her prerogative to do what she wants.
But we were given it.
Excuse me, but you never even thanked her for it, did you? You just live there without any permission, right?
I had let slip some complaints before. The agent remembered that and pointed it out to her with a stern tone. Whitney, aware she hadn't thanked us, stuttered for a moment.
What do you mean? You're just a stranger.
Yes, but you're also a stranger to the president and Vivian, aren't you?
I couldn't help but burst into laughter. That's right, Whitney had said she didn't want to be family with us at the time of the marriage. The agent, who had been with us for a long time, remembered that as well.
Please give up on the house.
Hearing the agent's words, Whitney walked towards the now vacant lot and sat down, appearing deflated.
Vivian, if anything else comes up, please feel free to consult us anytime.
Thank you.
I glanced at Whitney, who was silently crying on the spot, before I headed home alone. That day, when I got home, I told Andrew.
I want to consult with a lawyer about Tom. We can't keep hiding him like this.
Andrew seemed to have been thinking the same thing and immediately called a lawyer he knew. Tom was engrossed in a game that Andrew had bought for him. While he was preoccupied, the three of us started discussing what to do next. After talking for a while and nearly finalizing our plans for the future.
Hey, you're there, aren't you?
Bert's voice, banging on the front door and shouting loudly. Furthermore, repeatedly pressing the doorbell over and over, the sound echoed throughout the house. At that sound and voice, Tom's body trembled.
They've come.
I told Tom to hide and had him stay in my bedroom. Then Andrew and I went to the front door. There were Bert and Whitney, with Whitney holding a little girl.
What do you want?
I heard from Whitney. You destroyed the house.
Yes.
I had promised the realtor we'd clear the land,
I said calmly to Bert. Whitney snorted in indignation, and Bert turned red with rage.
Don't do whatever you want. This is why Whitney hates you. Tom's missing, and it's a mess, and you're doing this?
Hey, calm down. It's impossible to have a calm conversation with him this worked up. Andrew tried to calm Bert down, but Bert raised his voice without considering the neighbors.
How can I calm down? Forget about Tom for now. Just give us back our house.
That was the last straw for me.
You idiot.
I was so frustrated and angry that tears started to flow. Bert looked at me in surprise. Just then, a car with red and blue lights flashing pulled up in front of our house, making a loud noise.
That was quick. A police car?
What's this about? If you have business, we're leaving.
Bert and Whitney began to visibly panic. Seeing them like that, Andrew said,
Leaving? We had them come here to discuss something about you too. Perfect timing. Let's talk inside.
The two of them turned pale. When two police officers stepped out and I said,
Officer, these are the eldest son and his wife.
They lost their chance to flee and we all went inside. In fact, during the earlier discussion with the lawyer and Andrew, we had decided to report to the police. If the eldest son and his wife weren't going to report, we would explain the situation and then have it reported to Child Services. They would help us in trying to gain custody. And so we made the report. At that timing, the eldest son and his wife showed up of their own accord. They sat on the floor inside the house. However, no matter what the officers said, they just responded with and well, unable to give a proper answer.
So, Mrs. Vivian here found Tom chained in the basement, is that correct?
An impatient officer asked me.
Yes, that's correct.
At our words, the eldest son and his wife looked up sharply.
You took him? Is Tom here?
Yes, he is.
This isn't kidnapping. Why did you hide it?
I told them.
Well, you didn't ask. If you really wanted to find him, I told you to go to the police, but you didn't because you were worried about yourselves.
The officer leaned on one elbow and began taking notes on my words.
Tom said he's always in the basement, and it seems like he had bruises. I can't return him to you.
The two officers looked at each other, then stood up. The son and his wife watched the police officers' movements, pale-faced.
Bert, Whitney. Could we talk at the police station, please?
Eh?
You'll come with us, right?
Whitney started to tremble.
Wait. If my mother said that, it must have been some misunderstanding. Good that Tom is here.
Bert weakly attempted a conciliatory smile, then stood up.
Tom, are you there? Let's go home.
As he tried to leave under the pretense of looking for Tom, he was stopped by the police officers.
What are you doing?
We need to talk about your child first. We can't just let you go back with him like this.
Let go! Don't interfere, you outsiders!
Bert struggled to shake off the police officers. As a result, he was eventually subdued by the two officers and pushed into the patrol car. Despite the situation, Whitney remained motionless, head down, frozen in place.
Whitney, please come with us,
said one of the officers. Finally noticing, she looked up and pleaded with me.
Vivian, please help me. I'm not at fault.
What are you saying now?
If I get arrested too, what will happen to the kids? I'm really sorry for everything until now. I'm reflecting on it.
She tried to use tears to her advantage. However, I am a stranger to Whitney. That's what she said, so it's none of my concern.
Don't worry about the kids. I will take care of them. How could you? You should reflect on and atone for your actions.
Whitney looked despairingly tearful. Approaching her gently, I held my granddaughter for the first time. Noticing Whitney's arms tense, she must have realized that resisting was futile. She slowly let go, stood up, and followed Bert into the patrol car. Seeing my granddaughter's sleeping face briefly soothed me until I noticed bruises on her arms, causing my heart to ache. Watching my eldest son and his wife being taken away, I couldn't help but think, never get near these children again. My eldest son and his wife were eventually arrested. Consequently, Bert was fired from Andrew's company.
I was wrong. I'll change and do better. Please don't take away my job.
During the visit, Bert begged Andrew while crying. But Andrew's decision was firm.
I and Vivian gave you many chances. Yet, you chose to protect yourselves until the end, even prioritizing the house over Tom. I can't entrust the company to someone like that.
He decisively cut him off. They must be in despair now. Yet, I have no intention of helping my eldest son and his wife ever again. With the lawyer's assistance, Andrew and I were able to gain custody of the grandchildren. My eldest son and his wife have lost their jobs, their home, and their children. Though they received probation for what they did to Tom, the children no longer want to approach their parents, my eldest son and his wife. They were made to feel scared. They probably don't want to think of them as their parents anymore. Now, they live in an apartment where we moved their belongings. Bert has started working part-time at a local grocery store, and it seems Whitney is working at night. It's uncertain how they will live from now on. However, I hope they never forget that they are the parents of these grandchildren and live rightly as human beings. Tom is overjoyed to be living with us. I was worried whether Lala, Tom's sister, would get used to us, but thanks to Tom, she quickly warmed up to us. Now, after school and kindergarten, they both happily help me out. Such days are very joyful and fulfilling. Children cannot choose their parents. But there is always a path to happiness. And I want to teach these children that even without parents, there will always be someone to protect them, with all my heart.